Hello everybody. I hope that you're well. A huge welcome to my channel if you haven't watched a video of mine before. Today I'm going to be talking about, or really answering the question, are you a creative? And it's a word that has followed me around a great deal throughout my whole life, but really this week it seems to have been kind of at the forefront of work I've been doing, one-to-one sessions for myself, because I was actually feeling quiet on the creative front. And I was just trusting the process, right? I was just trusting that something might emerge that I could create, my weekly article on, that maybe I could create a video, but I really wasn't pushing myself. I just wanted to sit in the quietness of creativity this week. And then the more and more I thought about it, I wondered why I was thinking that creativity was this rush of excitement, right? Why is it that creativity is this rush of excitement that feels like it's flowing through me, that it needs to move really, really quickly? And then there's like a burst of something that happens at the end of it. Isn't creativity also those quiet moments, those moments of stillness when things are just settling and maybe you're observing something and you're trying to kind of like figure out what it might be and what that would create if you slowly start to put it together? And maybe it doesn't feel as easy as the bursts of energy and the bursts of creativity that you suddenly have, but there is depth in the slowness, there is depth in the stillness that you feel. And the more and more I sat with it, I realized that we are creating all the time. We create when we're trying to problem solve something. We create when we're making dinner, even if we're not quite sure what it is we want to make for dinner. We create when we're doing something artistic. So maybe you're somebody who makes things with their hands, or maybe you like to paint or draw. They are really obvious forms of creative expression. But creativity is something that surrounds us always. It is a huge part of our lives, even down to the way that we think is creative, right? And so I really sat down to kind of think about, this word. And for me in particular, I know that it has been a huge part of my life. I mean, if you look around my office behind me, you can see there's a lot of colour and a lot of memory, right? I've got a lot of memory, and a lot of those memories stem from being creative. It stems from creating businesses that are fueled from creativity. And so creation and creativity is a huge part of my identity. And for a long time, I thought that there was a big disconnect between being creative and a business owner, being creative and maybe even to a point being a parent. And if I pause on parenting for a moment, because I was interestingly seeing some articles on Instagram this morning where people were really talking about these beautiful art businesses and craft shops and things that they have built and created and put out into the world. And, the importance of nurturing children through this space. And that goes without saying, right? I mean, I would hope that most people watching this video understand and can relate to how important it is that we ensure that we include creativity to any extent in the lives of our children. And I know for Alice, bringing her up, one of the things I had from when she was very, very small was we always had a craft cupboard, right? So the craft cupboard always had threads in, it has paints in, it has paper, it has pom-poms. Like I can't even think of the amount of things this craft cupboard has. And over the years, depending on where we've lived, that craft cupboard has moved. And even now that Alice is 15, the other week I found her in her room and she was making a paper mache 3D cat. And I was just really laughing because I thought, oh my gosh, like where did that even come from, right? And she'd seen an idea on Pinterest and off she went. I noticed, yesterday, in fact, when she was cooking, because she loves, loves, loves to cook, and it's part of her profile, in her human design profile, she has a 1-3, which is all about experimenting and investigation, right? The other way around, investigation and experimenting. So I see it in the way that she throws ingredients together and she makes food and she bakes. She's been baking vegan cakes for her dad because Clive loves cakes, but he's a vegan. And Alice has been trying to find all these different substitutes to make sure that he has something yummy. But when she's cooking, she's singing and she's humming. And it really made me pause. And I thought, I wonder where she goes. I wonder where she goes in that moment where she is joyfully expressing who she is through the medium of cooking. And she is singing. Like, how beautiful is that, right? How amazing is that you can connect so deeply with yourself as you express and put something out into the world and you are in flow with yourself. And so then the more I kind of like pondered it, I was like, well, creativity is such a deep expression of who we are. And whenever I'm coaching, creative founders, one of the things that we talk about is how closely linked our identity is to the business that we are building. Because for most people, we are in a relationship with a business, right? Or we're doing work and the business just houses that work. It's like a legal entity, okay? But when you are a creative founder, when you're somebody who is building an independent business, it is an expression of you. You are putting something that you have imagined and you have created something tangible and you have then placed it into the world. And much like a child, it walks around the world, with a piece of your heart attached to it. And I'm sure anybody who is in a literal creative expression, like being an artist, like somebody who makes products, hand makes products, somebody maybe who works with fabric, somebody who maybe works with acrylics or, different types of mediums, you will hopefully be able to relate to that. But then there's also the other side of creativity, right? Which is, for example, I love to write. Now, that is a form of expression. And I always thought that maybe I needed to wait until I was completely inspired or something was very buzzy around me in order to be able to create something or write something that was created connection. And actually, that isn't the case at all because I find that the depth of my writing and the moments when I am almost having my equivalent of singing to myself and I'm kind of almost humming is actually in those quiet moments. And that's when my creativity almost feels like it's still, but actually, it's actually putting onto paper something very, very beautiful, or at least I think so. And while I was geeking out over this, I was like, well, where did the word creativity come from, right? Is this something that has been around for forever? And I think the act of creation has been around in terms of for human beings, in terms of creating something, making something, forming something, right? That has been around for forever, really. But then I think we shape that into something as we move through the Renaissance era. And then creativity became, this very kind of like almost in some ways a formalized expression. And I don't know if it can be formalized, right? I think it's something that lives on in here that needs to come out, and that when it comes out and it's placed in the world, then it will impact other people and it will create a beautiful ripple effect. And that is part of legacy, that is part of building a body of work. And I love it because I think so many things are changing now. I mean, we're seeing so many gurus, pivoting. We're seeing so many spaces online where people are now wanting to bring their voice to the front and they are wanting to share what they are feeling. They are wanting to creatively express what that is. They are wanting to build something that, yes, fuels and sustains their life in terms of money and things like that, but actually more so in terms of creative expression. And we're seeing it more like, especially on platforms like Substack, which is a platform I've really fallen in love with at the moment. There's a lot of depth there, a lot of thought leadership, a lot of thinking, people working it out as they go. And it's really interesting to kind of just see that variety across so many different people. But what's also interesting is that people are literally building businesses from it. And I had always wondered whether creativity and business could coexist. And when I was at the Creative Conference, the Creative Network Conference here on the island a few weeks ago, everyone there were creative founders. And that's where the discussion around identity came from. That was where people were starting to feel that maybe building business is hard and how can it coexist between their art and, this entity, this vehicle that is business. And I think, when we treat it as two separate things, then it's a very difficult thing. It's almost like you feel like you're being asked to be somebody that you're not. So you're over here wanting to be creative, wanting to have this expression, you're doing something you absolutely love, and yet you're being told over here that this is how you market, this is how you sell, this is what you must do. And that sometimes can internally feel at odds with the creative aspect, right? But if we take a step back and we actually realize that the relationships we have with our business can be very different. So, like I was saying earlier, you can have a relationship with your business, but a business is just a vehicle. It's just a method of getting it out into the world. And here's the thing. If you have a creative expression as a gift, as in you're a painter, you're somebody who illustrates, you're somebody who works with textiles, you're somebody that creates something tangible from your creative expression, you're a writer. I mean, I could sit here and list them all day, right? Then you actually have a gift within you that enables you to actually also share that with people. You do. You're probably sitting there going, no, I don't, Effie. But I promise you, you do. You would not have been given a gift that is yours to express without the other tools. And that often sits suppressed within us because somewhere along the line, somebody has given you a story that says that maybe being creative isn't as serious as, I don't know, getting a degree and becoming, a professional, right? Following more of a professional type career. But who's to say that being creative isn't a professional career? Of course it is. Of course it is. And it's one of the bravest things that you can do because it's taking something from your imagination and it's making it tangible. And you're inviting people in to see a piece of you. I mean, that for me is like incredibly brave. It's incredibly courageous. And you absolutely are not creating something that's small or little. You are absolutely creating the truest expression of who you are. And to be in flow state like that, by the way, whether it's bursts of energy or whether it's slow build, momentum, quiet, stillness, that is a state that a lot of people try to get back to through meditation, through mindset work, through healing. You know, my goodness, yoga, like so many different modalities. And yet here we are connecting to it every single time we create. And so when we're looking to create a business from it, you're not actually creating a business. You're actually forming a relationship with a vehicle that enables you to move your work out into the world. And it's really a beautiful thing. It's an absolutely beautiful expression. Now, I could talk about imposter syndrome, I could talk about confidence and all those kind of things, but they are stories, they are learned stories. Your ability to create was something you came here to Earth with. It is a part of your expression and it is something that you have that enables you to invite people into your world. And I think one of the things I'm enjoying seeing more than ever now is, people are embracing micro communities. People are coming off digital even. I know the irony, I'm doing this on digital, but, local communities, doing local workshops, hubs popping up in communities. The island itself, morphing into and becoming even stronger in terms of wanting it to be the creative island. It is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And long may it continue. And if you haven't picked up a paintbrush, if you haven't drawn, if you haven't made something, just for a minute, ask your mind to pop it all on hold and just do something. Just colour something. I haven't got it here because it's over on that table, but literally at the weekend, I drew some flowers and I picked them up and I coloured them in. Let me grab them for you. 2 seconds. Hang on. Like I'm going to show you actually. I'm not going to cut this video. I'm actually going to show you what I did. So there you go. There's a flower. I did a tulip as well, which was fun. I just thought it was fun. You can see my colouring. It's quite fun. And then there you go. And you can see my colours, right? They're all purples and pinks and and I had my pen. So I dug out all my pens and I just decided to get a black marker and I just literally drew it. It's on paper. It's okay card. And I literally just did it and I cut it out. And they've been sitting there on my desk. And I did it on Sunday and it was fun because Alice then came in and said to me, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. I just felt like creating some paper flowers. I'm not particularly planning on doing anything with it. I'm not particularly looking at this and thinking I must turn this into a business. I just in that moment wanted to draw flowers. In that moment, I wanted to colour and create something that was bright for me. And they've just been sitting over there, like with all my bits and pieces. And so there was no intent behind it other than just I felt like it. And so I created space in my day. I sat there and that's what I did. And I pulled out my pens and off I went. And I had a great time, absolutely a great time, and it was something that felt very, very freeing because there was nothing attached to it. And I think as well, that's when ideas start to flow through. And this is what we mean about creating stillness and space. It doesn't necessarily mean walk out into the middle of the woods, sit in the middle of nature and do nothing. You know, often it can also be you can find stillness in the act of creation. You can find stillness in just like baking or drawing something or colouring. And there's no expectation about whether it needs to be good or not. And I say good because that's all like perspective, right? You could look at this and go, it's rubbish. You can look at it and go, it's wonderful. At the end of the day, it's just a tulip that I've just created and coloured in. There is no attachment to it in terms of whether it's good or bad. It's just a piece of expression. And so I challenge that. I challenge that and I lend that to you today. Let me know in the comments down below whether you see yourself as a creative or what your story even is around being creative. Let me know if you try different things. If there's, do you bake? Do you make things? Do you write? I'd love to hear, really, truly, I would love to hear. And if you've watched this to the end, thank you so much. It means a great deal to me. And as always, if you think this video might be helpful to somebody else, then please, please do pass it on. All right, then. I wish you much love. Well, I send you much love. I wish you much joy. And I will speak to you very soon. Take care, everybody. Bye.